Wheels Garage, working on the rear quarter panel here of the Model A. There is quite a bit of fabrication that has to be done. I've got a Ford 8.8 rear end. It just makes it for the mounting surface of the wheels, but I really wasn't happy with how things were modified and cut out from the body that I got from Minnesota here. You can see some of the old repairs kind of put in back here. I kept some of this because it's still nice and flush. But what I decided I wanted to do is do my very best to get some sheet metal in that looked kind of stock, but also fit within the wheel well, the suspension that I have set up here, and just to make sure there's some clearance for the brakes that I have going in, the disc brakes for that Ford 8.8. Came out of a Ford Explorer actually. 3 pieces so far. The first piece across the top here took a little bit of fabrication. There's a bead that I've put in just to make it look a little bit more like that's the way it was supposed to be. Putting that little bead, little finish in there. Flush mounted the sheet metal here. Actually using the good old Harbor Freight air punch. This actually worked out fantastically. Just air punching my way around, or air flanging I should say, my way around the sheet metal here, and then setting this in place. I have one last piece I have to work on in the back here. That last piece, you can see I've started kind of working a shape that fits at the moment. That's going to fit right in the back here. Lining up my bead that I have around the side, around the bottom. And the hard part that's going on here is the back of the Model A has this really nice curve to it. And I'm trying to figure out how I can make metal curve in 2 directions. I think it's a compound curve, it might be called. So I've got, you can see I've started a couple of pie cuts here. In the back, I'll show you, there are similar pie cuts just kind of helping make that shape in there. And some very slow, just hammer and dolly work. Have to have a little bit of patience as I work through that. But I wanted to stop, show you how far I had made it so far, and then kind of work on this last piece so you guys can see the finessing and a little bit of trim work that it's going to take to really make this piece fit. So it's time to get to work. Alright guys, just trying to give you a different perspective. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm just kind of tacking my way along very slowly. Right here, I want the metal to be absolutely flush. So I figured that's a good place to start, because once the metal starts bending, it's going to be really hard to get that to be straight. And you can see the curve I'm starting to work on as I go around here. It'll essentially look like that when it's all tacked in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these cool down, tack a little bit along here. Then I'm just going to start working my way around this curve here, all the way down to the bottom. Reason being is there's a lot of movement here I can play with. And you can actually see as you push on this, it kind of, once everything is connected here, it'll actually let the entire thing kind of bow in a little bit. Nice even curve that we get going on. That's exactly what I'm looking for right there. So I think that'll look really good. Just another quick view from the top here. You can see where the fresh metal is as you're going down the curve here. It's going to kind of sit in like that. So, continue tacking, very nice and slow. Keep that metal nice and cool. Get to kind of rub the car a little bit as we go, make sure everything is nice and clean. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Just finishing up on the passenger side here, going through plenty of flat disc to clean up the welds. There's a very dark line you can see that follows essentially where the patch panel went in. The nice part about that is it's a little bit concave. So even though it's a dark area, as a light sheet of Bondo goes over top of this, it's really going to just clean that up. The important part for me was to get this curve just right, the compound curve as it goes up. You can see all of my cuts and lines have been welded, grinded, and taken back out. So yeah, the finish work for this, being that I'm certainly no expert in body work, the finish for this is going to be just that thin amount of Bondo that's going to cover up some of the pinholes that are in here between the welds. Nothing is see-through anymore, so I don't have to worry about covering something with Bondo and then moisture coming in from the back of that metal. So it's really just some imperfections, some things that if I spent enough time welding, I could probably clean up all of these lines that you see in here. I'm just not going to worry too much about that. So that's going to get a sheet of Bondo. But for this project, a major part of that structure is now complete. It did take quite a bit of work. So hopefully you like it. I think it worked out pretty nice. So I have many more projects to move on to. So that is just the rear quarter panels and a bit of a custom job. So I hope it helps you out.